Hello, my name is Jack Moore, and this is my presentation on how to be more aware of the increasing spread of misinformation due to the advancements made in AI technology as of late. Despite AI's constant advancements, leading it to be capable of being used maliciously by the general public, AI also has had positive industrial, social, and economic changes on humankind, which is quoted by Tai. It has also had great significance in the medical field, as is helping improve medicine and the delivery of healthcare in the near future. Like all technology that precedes it, it has great possibility to improve efficiency and economic conditions, but also has the potential to be used wrongly to spread misinformation and cause damage, as well as depending on the intent of the user. The images that can be seen below were images created by AI of Donald J. Trump being arrested, causing many people, even those aware of AI's capabilities, to be concerned, fully believing the misinformation being spread and questioning the former president's arrest. As you can tell, this was very distressing and alarming, as people did not understand that these were fake images spread and made by AI. This is one of the many examples of how harmful and believable AI imaging can be, as they certainly defamed and harmed Donald J. Trump's image and reputation, especially if those who witnessed these images were not ever informed of the image's illegitimacy. As you can tell from the image on the right, members of the younger generation saw this spread of misinformation as something fun or a funny joke, simply doing it out of boredom, which shows another reason why misinformation is so easily spread. Before continuing, you may not be familiar with the current terms like fake news or even misinformation, as it was formerly known as propaganda. There's a lot of different names, and these terms have changed over time. However, this quote from an article explaining propaganda and misinformation over time lists a lot of these terms that can be used almost interchangeably throughout history. In other words, the mechanisms and methods through which media scholars have sought to understand propaganda, or misinformation, or disinformation, or fake news, or whatever you would like to call it. This quote pretty much covers a lot of the terms we will continue to use and you should be aware of when discussing misinformation and discussing AI in forms of creating misinformation. To better understand misinformation, we'll observe the history of it and why it's so easy to fall for. Misinformation is one of the oldest practices in history, often in the form of propaganda. Being popularized in the 19th century, propaganda often uses compelling images linked with messages meant to sway the reader's opinion. For example, as seen at the bottom right of these two images, one being of the US and the other being of Nazi Germany. During World War II, German news stations only showed news of German victories, propagating the idea that Germany was unbeatable and unstoppable, which led to the application of many young boys joining the Nazi army. Now, instead of government spreading misinformation, it's become common practice for the general public to spread misinformation, especially in the political scene, whether they mean to or not. In order to stop this spread, you must verify information by checking with credible sources. This information even dates back to the Enlightenment. A research-based article called A Brief History of Fake News says it played a role in catalyzing the Enlightenment when the Catholic Church's false explanation of the 1755 Lisbon earthquake prompted Voltaire to speak out against religious dominance. Bots are a common phenomenon on platforms such as Instagram, Twitter, and other social media platforms, with a widespread amount of users, usually in the younger generation. These bots are capable of making tens or hundreds of posts simultaneously and are very hard to keep in check by the owners of these social media platforms. With the current advancements made with AI, widespread false images can easily be spread and seen and believed by a larger number of people than ever before. As you have seen throughout this presentation, it is easy to fall for these misinformation plays, as it is almost impossible to tell the difference between these AI-generated images and real ones. Since you have took the time to listen to this presentation, it is your responsibility to make sure that those who are on social media all the time are aware of this spread of misinformation and can hopefully avoid falling for it. As you have heard, or as you have learned throughout this presentation, misinformation is very easy to fall for, and it is important to be more skeptical about almost everything you read online, especially because you seldom know the intent of the author. In order to combat this misinformation, it is important to check the validity of their sources if you aren't sure of the claims being made. Oftentimes, authors list their sources at the end or in the middle, usually when they cite sources about what is being written so you can validify these claims. You must also consider your own personal bias, especially in the political scene, where we have preconceived notions about certain political parties and political ideas. People will spread information to condemn other political parties, to further their own political agendas and ideas. If you have a personal bias towards one side, you should consider validating the information you're reading, especially if it condemns others that you disagree with. If you plan on sharing interesting news, make sure you check its validity or express that you are unsure of what you read or even what you have seen, as seeing is no longer believing with these advancements of AI technology. As you can see in the bottom right, misinformation is dangerous. Take care before you share, even with your family, as that's how misinformation spreads. In this presentation, we have covered a lot of information about AI and the spread of misinformation. To recap, we have talked about AI being beneficial and making great advancements in technology, industry, the economy, social settings, and the medical field in the future. AI can also be used maliciously. Misinformation has taken many forms and evolved over time. We've also discussed the history of misinformation to better understand it. It's up to you to understand the risks of AI in order to help others and yourself from the spread of misinformation. Remember to verify sources, remove personal biases, and be wary when discussing political issues, as this is where misinformation is most prevalent. Thank you for taking the time to listen to my presentation, and these are the sources I use for my presentation.